Nice. So we are on air with our July 16th work session. It's a short one today. We only have a half an hour for it because we have some executive session matters. Councilor Savinjord is caught in a meeting, so we'll start without her and she will catch up to us if she can. And so I will say, because we don't normally, I see we have some people here who might be wanting to make comments. We don't normally take comments in a work session, and especially because it's only half an hour, I suspect we will fill the half hour with questions and back and forth. But if we don't have time for comments in this work session, you are welcome to come back to the regular session at 6 o'clock, where we do have a public comment period. Looking at our agenda and what's on it, I would say the public comment period won't come up before 6:30 because there's a couple things, substantive things ahead of it. Put that out there, and with that, I'll turn it over to our finance director to get us started.
Thank you, and greetings, everyone. We're here to discuss solid waste rates for the upcoming year of 2025. For solid waste, we have our solid waste consultant, Chris Bell from Chris Bell and Associates, and he's here to walk us through his annual report.
Well, thank you for having me in. It's been a couple of years since I've been here. The last time I was at the older building, and I say I really like this space a lot better. There's a lot more to it. This has been I've been working in garbage since 1990. And as a consultant since 2003. So from 2003 on, I've been working primarily as a consultant for local municipalities. And since that time, since I've been a consultant, I've been working with Clackamas County. And I believe it was, I got to think back when we integrated Milwaukie with Clackamas, and then we had the breakout between the two, I think it was 2016, 17. However, I've been working in and out, working with the city of Milwaukie for quite some time. And, over the years, it's interesting because you start off with, I believe, 5 haulers, and it's kind of shrunken over time, and it's been consolidation. Now you have 2, and you've got Clackamas garbage with the piece down at the bottom right there. Not a lot. And so as the years have gone by, and we're seeing this in the garbage industry within the Portland metropolitan area. All these smaller haulers are either selling out or they're buying other haulers. So there's been a consolidation within the industry. Every year, your franchise haulers in the state of Oregon, this is a unique thing in Oregon, and I really like this aspect of it because the haulers submit annual reports that tell you the operations, what they did in each of these jurisdictions. And the two primary companies that submit the reports, the people that I've been working for those companies have been in the industry longer than I have, which is a good thing because there's consistency in the reporting. And so there's not a lot of surprises when I get the annual report. But this annual report is submitted to the jurisdictions and it breaks out the operations by residential, commercial, and industrial. And so we take those reports, we review them, we make any changes, we ask a lot of questions, and we consolidate, and we get a composite on the operation. I'll switch to the next page there. We get a composite report on the actual changes or the actual performance within the franchised area. And so your two primary haulers are Waste Management and Waste Connections, or /KU, which is which is owned by Waste Connections. Like I said, Clackamas garbage is smaller. You've got around 6,000, just a little over 6,000 residential customers. You've got 400 commercial customers, and you have a lot of drop box hauls. The biggest haul customer within the city is Precision Cast Parts. Precision Cast Parts has a special waste and generate a lot of waste that's taken over to Hillsborough Land. So that's the essence of the services provided within the city. Next slide, please. This is your area, and you can see the biggest area, the gray area, is waste management, and that's been consolidated over the years. Prior to that, they purchased a company called Oak Grove, and Oak Grove had a significant portion of Milwaukie. And the top part, it's Cahoot. Cahoot grew because they acquired the Dynas brothers and Pearl Dynas, and I think it was, there was 3 Dynases. Grew that, and then at some point, the Dynas brothers. So now you got the 2, and you got, like I said, you got the 3rd piece down on Clackamas Garbage, which is by the park.
Are you just saying Cahoot and Waste Connections are 2 names for the same company?
Same company.
Okay.
What Waste Connections does, they buy the company, but they like to hold the name of the company.
Mhm.
So it'll be Cahoot Waste Connections Company.
But they're like a national company like Waste Management
They are.
is?
Publicly traded company. They're the 3rd biggest company in the United States. They're pretty formidable. And they've grown, shoot, I'd say, their first operation was Vancouver, right? Vancouver was their first operation when they bought from BFI back in 1998. They've grown to the 3rd biggest in the last 25 years. And both companies, very reputable companies, very easy to work with. 5. Next slide. So one of the things, we get the annual reports. I didn't make any changes this year. There were some questions I had. But what we're trying to do is we're looking at consistency between Clackamas County and between Milwaukie right now. So the increase in costs, looking at where they finish versus what the increased cost will be. We know that driver labor union is going to be about 3.3%, and that's based on the contract that Waste Management has with their union, with the Teamsters 212. And Waste Connections has a similar contract with a similar escalation. What happens in the Portland metropolitan area, you have one company that usually goes out first, the union negotiates with it, and once they get that agreement, they push it to all the other haulers. Waste Management is usually the first, and so they're out the gate. They're going to base their contract based on what that increase is going to be. Metro disposal rate. Again, this is the 3rd year that we've seen an increase for Metro, a significant increase, just under 12% is another portion of what we're pushing through or passing through in the rates. Metro had an increase, an increase in disposal fee around 8% for organic collection. And within the city of Milwaukie, you mix food waste with your yard debris, so that's an organic collection. The cost on doing that's a little higher than just yard debris alone. And the other piece is the recycling processing cost. What we do is we usually typically adjust that on a rear because it's very difficult to estimate what that's going to be from year to year, from month to month, because it's commodity based on recycling. So we adjust that on the back end. So those are the projected increased costs for 2020.
Can I ask a real quick question before we go on? So you can mix food waste with lawn clippings?
In Milwaukie,
Yeah.
I
Where
didn't
have
know
you
that.
been?
Didn't know.
You can do food composting.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not just,
But it's more expensive.
it is. It is more expensive.
I'm keeping costs down.
Yeah, there you go. We can convert back. It's actually cheaper because we can take it down to, Canby, and, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to take it down there. So one of the impact that we're having, that we're seeing this year, and we've seen it the last 4 or 5 years, is increase in Metro tipping fees, and that has a significant impact on your collection rates. If Metro kept the rates flat or had a small adjustment, we wouldn't be having this discussion because your rates would be pretty stable. But there's a significant portion of your collection costs that are tied to disposal costs. You can see on this table, since 2020, that cost increase has gone from $98 to just under $155 per ton. That's a lot. That is a lot, considering what it's required. So at 57% in the last, since 2020. One of the issues that's being addressed, and it's not, when I first got into garbage, there used to be this regular meeting. It was Portland, it was all the policymakers, it was a lot of the hauling community, it was a lot of everybody who was doing anything with their garbage. They would meet every month. They had their regular SWAC meeting. A lot of things would get hashed out. Those meetings went away 7, 8, 9 years ago. And since then, there's been a lot of questions on how Metro does things. And the local jurisdictions are asking questions, and you guys are not getting a lot of answers. Why things are going up, and what the process is. I anticipate rates are going to keep continuing to climb. until they really address the issues. And like I said, I haven't seen the leadership address the issues at this point. This table kind of plays out what the expected impact is going to be in the upcoming years in 2025 and 2026, looking at the same progression rates over the last few years. And you can see that your cost per customer for the 35-gallon cart, which is the most common, you're going to be paying around $11.44 per customer per month just for the garbage disposal. That doesn't count the collection costs or anything else. That's just purely for disposal of garbage. And your commercial container customer is going to pay significantly more, just under $210 per month. And again, that's a lot of money to pay for garbage disposal.
Next slide.
Yes. So this table kind of lays out the different pieces, the different components that comprise the proposed rate increase. And it, like I said, part of it's the disposal fee, the increase in disposal fee, or increase for organics collection, or organics disposal, the 24 cents. The increase in the union contract, 25 cents per the labor. A small increase for truck replacement. One of the things too that we're seeing since COVID, the cost of a garbage truck is significantly increased. Right now, you're looking at about $500,000. And when I first got into garbage, about $100,000. We're seeing increases in 7.5% to 12% per year for garbage trucks. And that's a significant amount. The next one's recycling. Like I said, we captured that, the impact of recycling on the back end. And that's 65 cents, that's per customer per month. So the total increase for different sizes of container and customer is in the total amount. And so the proposed rates are for your most popular containers, our cart size, $40.48, which is about 5.4% increase over the previous year.
Next slide.
Next slide. And we're seeing a similar thing in commercial, although the different components of commercial are reduced. But for commercial, the increase is the rate of return is pretty healthy. So what I'm proposing for commercial collection is the increase in the disposal. And again, that's around 5-6%, depending on the size of the container that the customer has. Next slide, please. In the proposed drop box, the increase for the drop box service is primarily associated with the increased cost of the labor, the fuel, the truck. So the cost there is around $7 per haul fee. And then on the disposal per drop box, that's a pass-through. So it depends on the weight of the box. So if it's a two-ton box, they take it to Metro, they multiply the Metro tipping fee by 2 tons, and that's pushed back to the ratepayer.
Sorry, I didn't follow that. Can you
Oh, yeah.
walk through that a little bit more?
So if you get a drop box, let's say you're doing a cleanup, so the cost of the drop box service is there's a lot of components to it. There's the haul fee, which in this case would be, let's say assume you get a 20-yard drop box. And so the cost to pick up that box and take it to the dump is $177 per haul.
And what was the cost to bring it to me in the first place? Was there a cost on that?
Yes,
That,
The delivery fee?
yeah, I'm trying to,
Sorry.
yeah, the delivery fee is $40 to get the box to you.
okay,
And then they're gonna come pick up the box, you're gonna take it to Metro or take it to whatever, is comprising the box. And then they're gonna take that, you may either need that box again, or if you're done with it, they take it somewhere else.
okay, so that makes sense when you're talking about in one-off project that
Yes.
somebody has at their
Yes.
house. But what about like construction sites and things where it's an ongoing thing to have drop boxes?
Well, there's initial delivery fee. And if they have to keep, let's say they do it 10 times, every time they haul that box somewhere and bring it back, it's $177.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then whatever.
And the cost of the weight of what?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And in some cases, depending on how long you keep the box, there's a rental charge. So if you have the box for a month, there's a rental charge associated with that. And if you have it for a few days, and I believe it's 3 days, right? If you use it under 3 days, there's not a rental charge. If you use it more than 3 days, there's a charge on it.
And so going back to your previous slide, the container is, you're talking about business.
Correct.
Regular, daily, weekly, whatever business service.
Correct. In fact, you probably have one here in the parking lot.
Mhm.
And that can vary from one pickup, 1 yard once a week to an 8-yard pickup 6 times.
Can you roll back to that slide, please? There we go. Okay. 2-yard weekly, 4-yard weekly, 6-yard. Okay. So there'd be, okay. I don't think that was in our, maybe it was. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is what we added this slide.
Okay. And then, so the other question, one of the council members had a question on C&D waste. What does that cost? And so I called around and got some information from the different areas. With one exception, everybody's charging what the metro disposal fee is. The exception is Republic Services charging $6.75 as opposed to $7.50 on the transaction fee. But it's the same amount. And any other piece too on this, there's a consistency, there's a thing called a recovery rate. And you can see that different facilities have different recovery.
Okay. So if somebody's demolishing a building,
Mhm.
the haulers can take it wherever they want to take it.
Unless, and I don't know the ins and outs, a customer saying, take it here or take it there. I do know this, for example, Precision Cast Parts has an account with Hillsborough Landfill. And so when Waste Management invoices for the haul fee for the Precision Cast Parts, they're showing that the haul fee. And Precision Cast Parts pays a separate landfill bill to Hillsborough Landfill. If there is if you have a customer that says, I want to haul it here, haul it there is a mileage charge that is associated. And if it goes beyond that, then the customer will pay that.
So we've had someone testify here that about the disparity in the amount of recycling that happens at those different
Mhm.
facilities. And I guess I thought the Metro one was going to be cheaper than everybody else because if others are recycling more. So it's very interesting to me that they're all the same price. I will
Yeah.
say that.
Everybody's matching, a couple of years ago. And this is probably still the case. I haven't been privy to finding out what that specific cost of service is at each of the transfer stations at Metro. I did a study back in 2016 or 17 for Metro to find out what that cost of service is at each of the transfer stations for self-haul, for garbage, and for C&D. And it was significantly higher for their C&D processing, for the recovery. And back to the numbers, their numbers were just as bad back then, or actually their numbers right now are a little worse than what they were back then. But neither one of these facilities at Metro was set up to design for sorting C&D. Metro South was set up to incinerate waste. And Metro Central was a building that they manufacture stuff. So neither one of those were set up to do what they're supposed to be doing.
But help me understand
Yes.
this. You're saying that individual businesses will contract with certain facilities. So it's outside of the purview of what we're talking about today to pick and choose which facility our waste is dropped at, or
Usually it's the hauler. They'll pick it up and they'll take it to the nearest facility. Yeah. And when I say your rates, I assume we're going down to Central. I assume you're going down South. If you had, if, for example, Waste Management want to take it all to Troutdale, they want to drive the extra distance to Troutdale.
Yeah.
You don't say, well, what it costs is the rate supports going down to Metro South.
Okay.
And the rate also supports, the Metro South. So if a hauler wants to utilize their own facility and drive further and charge a customer more, in the rates I look at, what is the closest licensed facility to set the rate on.
So you would have, so we would have no negotiation no way to negotiate where it's taken?
Yeah.
I just, the only reason I just look at the recovery rate considering,
Yeah. Well, if you're, let's
Our city goal.
say you're a business and you say, I want mine recycled, I want to take it here. Tell the hauler, yeah, you can probably tell the hauler. I don't know if you can specifically do that in your ordinance. I know it does happen. Because they say, oh, I want it here, I take it here. Or if you have an account set up with the company, you could probably say, I want it delivered here. If you're going for a LEED certification, you do have to have a certain recovery amount. And so that's the other piece too. If you're doing a green building, I know that's a big thing because they want the documentation in order to get that plaque. And so you have to take it somewhere that's going to recover the stuff. So that is, you could have a local business or a company that's constructed to do that. Say, I want to go here because they're going to get recovery. I'm going to be able to meet the objective of what they're going to accomplish.
yeah. Thank you.
And where did you find, I talked to somebody at Metro and was told they didn't have the recovery rate comparison, but you've got it there. So
Oh, I got it from a source who got it from Metro. Yeah, that individual spent a lot of money. Because Metro has been really tight with their information to a point where they used to provide this information on a regular basis. So you can get a basis, you can do comparables.
And with our recovery rate, is it, I hate to say this,
Yeah.
but I've listened to plenty of podcasts that talk about when something is recycled, it's often just shipped off to China and thrown in a landfill there. Like it's, to be recycled isn't true.
Yeah.
National Sword says no, but
Yeah.
if there is, like, does that rate accurately reflect that everything in that 43% is going to be recycled? Or,
That's how much they did recycle previously.
and when you say recycled, does it mean shipped to somewhere else and recycled, or does it mean?
They're different. Well, for C&D, there's a combination of a lot of pieces that could, you could have rock that goes to be used for aggregate. You could have wood that's reused for a lot of different purposes. You could have a metal. There's a really available market for metal, for cardboard.
But that is to say the term recycled, like, what are the standards for something to be considered recycled, I guess, in your recovery rate? Does that make sense?
Oh, no, it makes
Okay,
complete sense
okay.
because everybody wonders about that. Hey, I just paid a lot of money and they said they're recycling. You come out later and you find they're recycled or,
Yeah.
like for the definition, in California, you can take green waste and put it on the landfill and use it to cover garbage and it's considered recovery, which is, yeah, it's greenwashing. There are standards and the hope is that, and again, this goes back to Metro. Is Metro actually looking at this stuff like they used to? And I don't know if they are. I don't even know if they hold themselves to their own standards. And so that's, if what you're asking is a question a lot of people ask. You've established a law or an ordinance that requires this to happen, and is that actually happening? Do we have any faith in it? And if you don't have any faith in it, then why do we do it in the first place? Because it's a hell of a lot more expensive to recycle this stuff, right, than it is to pick it up and just take it straight to the landfill.
All right, that's, thank you.
Chris, is it accurate too that there's no state regulation or, standard around how?
No, there's not a state, yeah, it's kind of loose,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Do other states have stricter definitions?
California does, but then again, it's loose, so, theirs is broad, and, some of their law, they've got one law to fit, but if, in the state of California, you got 3 different regions. Within Oregon, the hope is that there is a standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is anybody enforcing? That's the question. And for the waste shed, Metro is the waste shed manager. They should be looking at this stuff, but over the last few years, that's not happening.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Kind of next steps here, we had the discussion tonight. This will go to a vote on August 6th, council meeting. And then if passed, the fees would go in place September 1 of this year, the rate increase. Excuse me. Something for the future to think about is that the franchise fee agreement expires in March of 2025, which is coming up. There's 3 potential paths forward that we can do. One is just extend the current franchise agreement for 1 year as is. Another is extend it for 1 year and negotiate changes based on any recommendations you all have. Or 3 is publish a request for proposal, an RFP, and go out and kind of do seek new franchise agreements with outside haulers. I'm kind of just bringing that up for a discussion here.
So I think, yeah, let's talk first about the rates.
Okay.
We need to have to know so that you know if you have a go-ahead for August 6th. So let's put the franchise agreement question for later.
And can I ask just a really simple clarifying question? The rates we would then bring to the hauling companies to say, do you agree to these rates? And that's what we're renegotiating? Or like, can you explain to me what the different brackets are or steps that we're taking? Does that make sense?
Oh, tonight we're just, right now, first thing is, here's the updated rates effective September 1st.
Okay.
And my understanding, Will, is these are rates that you vote on as the budget officers for the city.
Yeah.
And so if you vote to amend the city's adopted consolidated fee schedule, which these then go in, those are the effective rates charged to customers starting September 1st.
Uniform rates, so.
Uniform rates to all haulers.
Yeah.
But if within that process, we're interested in amending the agreement that we have, then our options are to extend and negotiate or go out to bid for
And
an entire new contract.
And to our favorite word, bifurcate, I do think they could happen simultaneously. Like, we put them both on the screen here, but they are sort of two different processes. You can adopt the rates, and we can, at a work session in 2 weeks, come back and talk about the future of the franchise agreements. Usually when you guys have this rate setting conversation, it's just about rates. We're just at a very interesting point when we are less than 12 months from these franchises expiring.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I got a couple of questions. So is the hauler's annual reports audited by anyone?
No, well, I look at it.
So you're the auditor?
I'm the auditor. The guy who looks at it says the easier.
Okay.
And do you compare, you said something about keeping in step with Clackamas County. Do you compare what our rates are to what
I
Clackamas County?
compare what they report to Clackamas County to everywhere else. So there's a whole process that I go through that looks at, what the line item costs are. 'Cause the reports are very robust. There's a lot of information there. Not only is there the financials, but there's the operational aspect. And you can kind of back into the rates. So for example, you can look at, what is the labor cost, and they'll report on there how many labor hours. And you can compare that labor hours, how much time does it take to pick up garbage within Milwaukie, and is that reasonable given the area of operation? We can look at how many tons were reported collected within the city, and we look at customer counts and say that we expect them to be within this range, and if they're in that range, great. If not, we adjust them accordingly. And so that's an annual, I wouldn't call it an audit. It's a little bit, as a CPA, their audit means something specific, but it's an annual rate review, and most every jurisdiction within the Portland metropolitan area goes through this process.
I just want to have a warm fuzzy feeling that there's a critical thinking that
Yes.
goes into the evaluation of the audit rather than,
There is.
here's the report, we'll just put it on the shelf. Okay, so I think I've got a good answer, okay? This is not so much a question, but from what I've heard, I think there may be a third action. Because I got to tell you, I was pretty alarmed at this annualized 4.2% increase over a 4-year period. That's a lot of increase. And I think that
Annualized, I'm sorry.
You mean that
Average
we're
is
throw tip fees?
percent increase each year for 4 years.
That's what we've had since 2020 or whatever.
Yeah, so it's over 50% increase. Okay. So, I say that third action would be like, hey,
4% per year for 4 years is 16%.
it's annualized at 14.2% per year. for each of-
14, okay.
Of each, for each of those 4 years.
Oh, you're talking about the tip fee rates.
Mhm.
And interest rates,
Mhm, yeah.
okay, okay. I thought you were talking about.
So that's why I'm saying that may be a third action for us to or us with a group of cities to go like, will you explain this?
You're not the first.
Yeah.
The mayor's next.
I just don't want to say, okay, let's just roll over. I'm not satisfied with that response. Third question. How much cheaper would it be if we separated food and lawn clippings?
It's,
I mean, that's a legitimate
Oh, no,
question. How
it's-
much would it be? Because I can see if it's really substantial, then we might want to do it. If it's not, then maybe not worth it.
it's actually, what are you guys paying right now? $13 a yard. $13 a yard for yard debris down in Canby
Versus,
versus 86 a ton at Metro. It's significant.
It's pretty
Well, I mean, you
significant.
gotta, I don't know what the difference between a yard and a ton is.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
gotta-
Approximately, a yard of yard debris is approximately 600 pounds. So it's, if you want, I can give you the calculation, but the problem is you gotta unwrap that. You know, how you gonna stop
Twice
people?
as much.
Oh, yeah, oh, it's.
Can I ask a clarifying question, though? What but if we separated it, we said no food waste in the yard debris, then we don't have a food waste disposal option.
Right.
We wouldn't have any curbside
For
composting
residential.
for residential.
Yes.
And I will say, when we added it, which was probably about 18 or so, we were told it was only a couple cents a month difference. You're saying it's 24 cents a month increase now.
Just for that,
Just
correct.
for that.
What's happened is the amount of facilities that can process food waste, food mixed with yard waste has shrunk. And it's, you know, we're around $90 a ton. That's a lot of money to add a sandwich to your yard debris and have a.
How much was it again? 80?
It's 80. Oh, yeah, no, it's killing me. I've got it right here in my report. It is, no, I don't have, I did 7% increase. Yeah, it's around $80 a ton for the food waste mix at Portland.
But you wouldn't have a food pickup option?
Yeah, so I think there's, right, and I'm looking at my haulers, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wouldn't be able to put your food waste out in a separate container and get that picked up. Food waste would go in the garbage.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be,
That's what I do now.
yeah.
Or garbage
I'm a
disposal.
trendsetter, okay?
Well, I do think a lot of people in town have gotten used to putting their.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
But that's why I was saying, how much is the difference?
Right.
But if the difference is that big, then it may be something we want to peel back a little bit more.
I didn't know until today that you could put food waste in your cans. I didn't know either.
It tells you that on our website, on waste management's, but,
I have those cards up on the wall by the refrigerator about what goes where. And
help us understand, it seems like there's appetite to pick apart the proposed increase. But if we don't bake this fee increase into our fee schedule, what are the implications of that? Like, because my understanding, it would take more than this one 30-minute work session to really dig into it.
Here's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Effective July 1st, the hauling companies are paying that increased tipping fee. So they're paying that between July 1st and 2 months of increase.
September.
Yeah, September. And so this cap, this is kind of in two months in arrear to capture that. So there's that lost, that additional increase in expense that they're incurring between now and September 1st. So they would be paying that out of their pocket.
Until this got approved.
Until it got, correct, till it got approved. And that's, and part of that is, it took a long time for Metro to come with the rate. It took longer than it should have, in my opinion. And that's why we're delayed. We could have probably brought this to council probably about 6-8 weeks earlier. But we used to bring these on, and they used to correlate with the increase in tipping fee versus with the start of the fiscal year, for 2 months. So that's.
Metro here?
No, and you know what, if you had to be there, they probably wouldn't come. not to be sarcastic or dramatic, that they,
We got a Metro rep.
Yes.
I'm meeting with her on the 25th.
Christine Lewis.
okay.
So Will, to your question, if we, so what you see up there is what's on the forecaster right now. But per our great conversation last week and, getting clear direction, if we don't have direction yet that we feel good about to put this on a regular session, we need more work session time, we can do that. But that is, the old rates are still in effect, which is,
Inadequate to make the haulers whole.
So my question then is, how long would it take to untangle this mess of fee increases to find something satisfactory? Do we think we can do it in a time that's sufficient to pay our haulers what they're required?
Well,
Or
the only one we control is the one that Councilor Massey's brought up, is the food waste. I don't think
Okay.
there's any of the other ones we have any influence over.
Yeah.
About that?
Correct. And then the problem with that is that there's the change in operations. How,
But I think if we, we're gonna do anything like that, we roll that into the March
Second
25th
question,
discussion.
yeah.
So,
sure.
there's bigger issues here that I would put in the pink. I think the
Yeah.
blue is pretty straightforward, that we need to do something in fairly short order.
So would it be fair to say, it seems like there's appetite to accept the fee increase, but maybe this goes to the policy swim lane. If someone wants to be our Oscar the Grouch and really dive into the trash, there's someone who's interested
Got
in
a
that.
new swim lane.
trash lane. This makes no sense to anyone who didn't watch the street last week, but yes, I think so. And that, and we've heard from some of the side of the table. I think it'd be good to hear from everyone and then, kind of assess where we are, if we are ready, if we feel we are ready to take a vote on the rate proposal that we've got on August 6th. That's what we'll move forward with. Or if there's other direction, we'll take that as well. Councilor Koster-Abadi, do you have questions?
One thing I just want, and maybe this is for another date, but I remember prior to my time on council, former Mayor Gamba was talking about a more equitable structure for the waste, for the cost of the waste between the gallon, the size of the.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, we-
I remember this very, very well. Yes.
Right, but I mean, when you got a 35 gallon trash bin, which is your typical one costing $40, then a 90 is $22, but it's about 3 times as much waste. That's a pretty big,
Well, you're looking just at the volume.
oh yeah, I'm looking at volume, of course.
The cost to
They're
pick
based
up,
off,
the cost to pick up that garbage cart, the same as 20 gallons, 35, 65, or 95. The cost, everything in that garbage costs the same, with the exception of disposal on the container itself. Disposal. Because they're having recycling, they're giving recycling in yard debris, they're having the regular collection. Everything's there, the only difference is, when Mayor Gamble went out and lifted lids, he was a little shocked in a good way that he was expecting to find a bunch of recycling in the 65 and 95 gallon carts. And what he found out is that there's garbage in there and that the recycling carts were pretty clean. The problem that you're going to have is and I just had this last week in Mount Vernon where they set the rate below the cost of service for the 20 gallon. And they set it excruciating high for the 65 and 95 gallon carts. Usually the people that have those carts are people that have big families. They generate a lot of waste. And when you penalize or you set the rates in such a way that the rate is below the cost of service for those smaller carts, people tend to get those carts and then they take that garbage when that cart fills up and they put it in the recycling cart or the yard debris cart. And that's a fact. When the city of Portland went from weekly to every other week, a significant amount of their contamination, their weight went into their yard debris and to their recycling. And Bruce Walker, it took him a while to admit this, but yeah, they're recycling their yard debris. It's more contaminated than everybody else because of that move. And then the way they set the rates. My position is, and I'm not a fan of the cost, of the pay-as-you-throw where you set that rate for the smaller containers at below the cost of service, because at some point.
I'm not suggesting that. Like, I'm saying, like, if you kept it at 40, right?
Okay.
Like, the increase that they just incurred, and again, I'm not a professional, so I'm leaving
Yeah,
it.
no.
There are more
No,
questions.
that's fine.
But the increase that was just incurred on the 20 and the 35
Yeah.
gallon. That modest increase, could that have been shared between the 60 and 90 and not have an increase on the 35 and
No,
20?
because the amount of people that is the 35 is about 65%.
So it's a big, it's a majority of your,
Yeah, it's huge.
not even, okay.
Yeah, most of your customers are 35s. There's a small portion in 95s, and that's a really small portion. And then, you know, probably about 10%, 12% that are at 65. So, yeah, it's not.
So it's pretty disproportionate.
It is. And the way they set the rates up is, you know, most everybody can use a 35 gallon card for garbage. You know, most, if you're recycling, you know, if you do everything, the volume's there for recycling and for yard debris, but it's also there for abuse too.
You're right.
Yeah.
And that was really what I was trying to get at, was
Okay.
if there was enough to carry that.
Yeah. I just remember when they did the lid lift, Mayor Gamble was pleasantly surprised in a good way that there was a lot of good recycling going on in the city of Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Counselor Savin,
I have, well, okay, so, one of my questions has to do with the estimation that you do in the contracts to go to Metro South.
Yes.
If we were interested in a higher capture rate or like recycling rate, we would pay the extra 4 months. So to go to the,
Yeah, it's the mileage charge, I think, is like $4 or $3 per mile.
and do all of the all of the haulers that we contract with, do they all go to that station?
They can go wherever. And
Is it really-
Yeah, so let's say you have a hauler, let's say they pick up dirt. And they take dirty dirt, certain places they can't take it.
Would that change constitute a significant enough modification to the contract that we'd have to go out to bid, or could it be a negotiation?
Oh, it's already, the method, it's already included in your rate structure. Yeah.
To go to that
To go anywhere.
facility?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on your drop box, it's a per haul fee. Right? And if it's over 18 miles one way from pickup to disposal, then that mileage charge kicks in. And
Okay.
that mileage charge is implemented primarily for precision cast parts. You know, driving way out there.
Are you asking more so if we can make it that that's where they have to go, not that it's just open choice? Yeah, that's kind of like.
Yeah, I don't think that
saying
I don't think you
Negotiate
could
that, right?
direct flow it. You know, well, I don't know if you can or not. That's a question for.
C and D debris specific, like what if it was?
whether we can or whether a customer can.
Yeah.
I mean, those are two different
Correct,
questions.
correct.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I guess what I'm looking at is if we have climate goals for the city and we have contracts with haulers through the city to provide this service for residents, I'm interested in a cost breakdown of what it would take to then contract to go to a highest recovery rate facility versus Metro South.
Right.
And, yeah, thank you. So that's a considerable recovery rate compared to Metro South. The distance between those two facilities is pretty minimal.
Yeah.
It's like 4 miles each way. So, I mean, minimal as I drive a car, right? Not as I'm driving a garbage truck. So I don't presume to know if that's minimal for you. And actually, I don't know if we're hearing from our
No.
hauler partners today.
We're not gonna have time. They can come back to the regular session if they want.
So I guess, I think if we are going to open the lid on the contract issue.
That's a good.
Thank you. Then I'm interested in looking at, all the different ways that we might be able to slice it. If we can recover a higher percentage at a minimal fee for extra mileage, then, then that sounds appealing. But I would want to make sure that it applies to all of the existing hauler contracts, because another fee that would probably come with that if we changed any of our hauler contracts would be new fees for, picking up bins and dropping off new bins for customers, and that would pass right through to customers.
That's already on there. You already have that.
Well, when you set up a new account, yeah, that's, but I guess what I'm saying is that I would want to try and mitigate that cost.
Okay.
if, you know, I would want to factor that in
Yes.
into our considerations, because we might say on one hand, wow, this is a really great decision, we're gonna be able to recover and recycle more. But then the customer 2 months from now gets a bill for an extra, you know, $35, and they're not super happy about that change. So I would want to make sure that I'm taking all of that into
Okay.
consideration.
And are you talking about this fee vote, the fees that we need to go into effect, or you're talking about the spring?
I'm talking about the larger,
Yeah.
you know, the expiry of the contract.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a ton of things we need to talk about in that. I think we need to open the lid. That's one, and there's a bunch of other ones, but just to make sure we're on track for what we need to do for this fiscal year and our fee schedule. Is everybody okay with the fee rates?
Everyone's okay with this sticking on the August 6th
I'm
agenda?
okay with this
for-
coming forth on August 6th.
Okay.
I would like to see what unincorporated Clackamas County residents are paying as a comparison.
Oh, I do, yeah. The difference between your rate and their rate are two things. And so if you looked at their rate, a little bit lower because of the yard debris and food waste, because Rick has seen how expensive it is. He's like, I am not doing that. And then you guys have the annual cleanup. And bulky waste is very, very popular. You know.
Know it.
Yeah, you're one of a few cities that do it. From my understanding, it's very appealing. Very, people like it.
Enough to make you move to Milwaukie?
You know, we were just talking, you should have been in the earlier discussion, we were talking about Camas, you know?
Trade in your papermaker suit for a Mustang.
Oh, no, we got rid of it, we got rid of the boiler. The pulver's gone.
So we are a little bit over, so I just want to make sure I'm summarizing. We're going to keep the rate approval on the August 6th, a regular session agenda. But I'm also hearing that we need to have more work session time to discuss Pink Box, and some things that came up in this discussion that we'll make sure we bring forward to that are recovery rates and whether there's anything in contracts that we could be exploring there to support our climate goals, but also thinking about fiscal impact, the future of our organic composting, current standard practice. And then the kind of secret option 3, we're not option, but task 3, which would be, do we need to be putting any pressure on Metro about the significant increases in tipping fees over the last 4 years? So we will get that scheduled.
And I think I'd like to have some info on when cities do an RFP. Like, I think there's a lot of inertia in most of the cities and they just keep extending. And why is that? Does an RFP get you something more competitive or not? Would we still be doing the same process even if we did an RFP? Would that, on the out years, would we still be doing the same process? I'd like to have a little bit more understanding of.
I've actually done it right up a couple of times. I'll send you something.
I hate to bring up something new. How, are people happy with the service? Do we know?
I think that's a topic we should dive into next time. Customer service complaints are some of the things that we do see as the city, but it's a bit of a self-selecting group. I can't say that what we're seeing is necessarily representative of the full
Yeah, they
city.
don't call and say my service is great.
It's wonderful. But we can bring what information we do have to the next conversation.
That would be a dumpster dive for another day.
Oh, man.
Fun.
I hate the games.
Really already getting started.
All right, so with that, again, the haulers are
We were there for.
invited to come to the regular session around 6:30 if they want to testify during the public comment period. We are late getting to our executive session, and are we going? We're going back.
Or do you want to do this?
We're back there. We're in the Redwood room.
So I've got to read this little script. After the work session, council will meet. I've got to get this on the record.
Hi, guys. The mayor has to read her statement.
Yeah. After the work session, council will meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 192-660 to subsection 1 to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, or employer or staff member who does not request an open hearing. Subpart D, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. And subpart E, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. So with that, this work session is adjourned and we need to get into there because we only have 35 minutes for something we were supposed to have an hour for.